Welcome back to another episode of the Bear Trap on the Boomer Buzz channel, Bears podcast by a Bears fan. I'm your host Terry, and today doing the expectations for the 2018 Bears. So I mentioned this and I'll mention it again up top. This is going to be part one, as you can see labeled, where I talk about my expectations. Part two, I want to follow up with this week with your expectations. I want to hear from the fans. I want to do some fan engagement. I want to be able to read off the best comments that I could pick out. Hopefully there's enough to have enough for a show, so that's where you come in. If you're sharing it around, if you got other people that's listening to it, or even if you don't, maybe this is a good one to introduce them to. But I want you to either go in the comment section of this video and you can do a comment. I'll read through all those, pick out any ones that I like. You can tweet at me is boom o bust, and you can email me if that's your thing. It's boomerbustmail@gmail.com. Excuse me. Those tags are at the end of each video too, so you could just look those up. But yes, please definitely send in yours, and we'll be able to talk. Now, these don't have to be super detailed expectations, as far as it could be very detailed as far as specific stats. It could be just a general type of thing, whatever. I'm going to give the example, of course. I'm going to go through and tell you what mine are, so then you can kind of see how my mind's working with it, and then you can go from there. Now, what I am doing is doing expectation for the offense, expectation for the defense, and then the expectation for an individual player. So that way we're not, making it too wide. We're boiling it down to one expectation, for that side of the ball or for that one player. And I know people will probably have multiple ones, but I'm just trying to keep it confined. So yes, that's what we're doing. And I'll have to say that this is the best time to do expectations, not predictions. I do that every year, and I'll do that before the season starts, where I predict each game, who's our MVP on offense, defense, all that stuff. But this is expectations. And some people will say, well, I haven't seen them in training camp. I haven't seen them in the preseason. Come back to me after 2 weeks of the season. No. Anybody can look in hindsight and make a guess or say a statement. When you look in hindsight, well, you already know what happened. Expectations come from the gut, and I think this is the best time. You know what the roster is pretty much. Even the unknown parts, you know who's here and kind of what they bring. And so we're going into training camp. It's blind, but it's also more intuition. It's looking at the team. This is what I expect them to do. And I think those are the best ones, because people these days love to just be revisionist, especially in sports. Like, they love to just wait till the season's over. Oh, that guy sucked. Like, that doesn't take any skill. Anyone can sit there and look at numbers afterwards and say, this was this and this was that. We're talking about what are your expectations straight from the gut. And I like this moment right before training camp to do that. So anyway, with all that said, let's get it started. Number one, I'll start with the defense. And this is probably not going to be a popular thing to say, but for me, I expect our defense to actually regress slightly. And I would lean towards us staying the same, but my heart tells me with a slight regression. So if you look at, and I got some stats here for all the stat heads to pull this up. So last season, our defense, as far as points per game, we were number 8 in the NFL, or right on the dot with 20 points per game. So top 10. And if you look at us yards per game, then we were number 7 with 319. So we're top 10, both categories. There's other ways you could look at defense. Those are 2 ways I like. So we were top 10, and we know we had our injury issues and everything else. And we're pretty much bringing back the same roster, and we're bringing back the same coaching staff. So why do I feel this way? Well, it starts and ends with pass rush for me. One of the things, or one of the players we're not bringing back is Pernell McPhee. Now, I'm in no way saying he was a terror on the edge. I'm just saying that I think on that side, from the way it looks right now, we're going down a slight step in that, and where we were previously wasn't all that great. So now that we're not even having McPhee, but we're going to go to a question mark, whether it's Aaron Lynch, whether it's Kylie Fitz, whoever else we try to rotate, to play on that edge. I don't see a pass rusher on the roster. Now, Leonard Floyd, again, even assuming he's healthy, assuming that he's at his top shape, I don't see him as a one-man pressure package. And so having him, and we talked about kind of what he's done so far and where he's at, I just don't see him being that premier type pass rusher that can apply the pressure whenever he has to. And it doesn't even have to do with numbers. A lot of people look at sacks, and of course it makes sense, but it really is just about the ability to get towards the quarterback to get home. And when it's right for Leonard Floyd, he can get there. But when it's not right, he's not always going to be in the picture. And they use him a lot in cover. So I already said this, but not about Leonard Floyd, about our roster in general. We don't have that pressure, I think, to hold up, because we got physical with corners with Kyle Fuller. And this is all assuming Kyle Fuller can repeat what he did. And that's a big question mark. So even if we repeat that, him and Prince, we could get physical with our corners, play some bump and run man to man. But we just don't take the ball away, and we don't got a lot of speed. So when you get guys that are able to get past that, especially early on in the game, or if our corners aren't holding up all game, then we start to get things leaky in the backfield or the back end, because even with our safeties, and again, not popular, I know, but Eddie Jackson is not like super raw to me, or a super good player. And that's a good one. We should spotlight him, but he's not a super great player to me like everyone thought. Like, yes, the touchdowns happen, but it's more than that. I promise you, it's more to it than that. And while I think he has a little bit of ball hawk tendencies, I still don't think he's near the intelligence that he has to be a true ball hawk. And he definitely is not good in the run yet. He can be serviceable at best, but when he is off, he is really off in the run lanes. Now, I know he's more of the free safety type and last line of defense, but that stuff scares me personally. As a defensive coach, that's what I look at. We gotta be able to stop the run. And so I think he's got some ways to go as a safety. And then Adrian Amos, for as good and versatile as he ended up becoming and really reaching towards that potential, again, nobody's keen to take away the ball in our secondary, not as currently constructed. And so when you talk about a lack of pressure, you talk about a lack of ability to turn over the ball, that is something that worries me as far as being able to take that next step. Yes, we got Roquan, and our front is pretty much the same, and our secondary is all the same. So you expect us to, like I said, I think we're going to either be right where we were or a little regression. And the only reason I say we might be where we were is because if you look at the schedule, our schedule, we got a fairly decent schedule this year, where our division opponents, of course, they're still pretty good offensive wise, but you talk about we're playing the NFC West, which is really going through a reconstruction right now with a lot of, well, I mean, you got Russell, but they still haven't helped him out much. In Seattle, you got the Cardinals that's kind of going through a quarterback shift. You got Tampa Bay with this whole Jameis Winston thing, how they gonna figure that out. You got Gase, who might not like Tannehill. We got to see how but that's the AFC East. I'm just looking down. So yeah, the West, I mean, of course you got the Rams. They're going to be able to do what they do. But then you got the AFC East. Tom Brady, of course, but outside of that, a lot of question marks up in the air for that team. 49ers and Jimmy G should be good. They're one of our random games. We got the Giants as another random game, but I'm not really worried about Eli. So yeah, we got a favorable schedule to where I think we can have a lot better numbers. So we had a much tougher test last year. So I think we still could stay consistent with our numbers, but there's a lot of injury bugs around the league and all those different things. And I think that there's just a lot more units that are better than the Bears as far as defense goes. And run game and, playing tough, I think will most 100% still be up there. But as far as producing what we did, points per game and yards, I just, like I said, gut feeling, I would have to say right now it's going to be right where we were or a little bit less. Still top 10. If I had a gun to my head, I would say 10, but maybe just not where we were. So anyway, moving on to the offense. My expectation for the offense is in specific categories. So defense was a little more broad, but offense, these are the 3 places that I'm looking at. I do expect our offense overall to improve, of course. I've said it again and 1,000 times. We don't know what Nagy's doing yet. I still hear people keep telling, Nagy's offense. We don't know what Nagy's going to do. And I'll get to that later anyway. But we know that we expect this to be a little more efficient, not just because of Nagy, but also the weapons we got. So here's the 3 areas I'm looking at. Number 1 is red zone scoring attempts, or trips to the red zone is what I just call them. So if you look at the Bears, we were number 31st in the league, tied with the last 3 people. So you could really say we was anyone, but 31st in the league with red zone scoring attempts per game. So that means basically, how many times you get into the red zone each game. Now, for me, that's important because a lot of casual fans will just, look at points, how many points you scoring, touchdowns and all that. But for me, when you really are playing great football, it's about ball possession. And when you're talking about ball possession, you're talking about offenses that can consistently move up and down the field. Now, you can hit a big play, a big bomb or a screen or return, whatever, and get to the red zone. But if you're not consistently moving the ball, then your red zone attempts per game are going to be low, as evidenced by the Bears. Now, again, we had some big plays here and there, but we know our offense is very stagnant, or was, in that we weren't getting attempts. Now, even if you don't score, even if it's 3 points, or even if it's 0 points, constantly getting to the red zone shows that your offense is able to move the ball on the defense. It keeps the defense on the field, having to be tired. And then it also, of course, more scoring attempts, more points. So there you go right there. That's one that's huge for me. We were 31st last year. And for all of these, my expectation is to be in, at least top 20. So that's what I want to be at. Which isn't asking a lot. It's not the top half of the league, but it's not the bottom either. So top 20, I would at least want to be in red zone attempts per game. Now, number 2, which goes to the same point, third down conversions per game. If you look at the Bears, we were number 28 in the league. So again, when you convert third downs, that shows that you keep drives alive. That shows that you're moving the ball. And as long as you're moving the ball, you get all those benefits that I mentioned before. But it shows that also, which you can dig deeper into the stats, but it shows also that you're putting yourself in good position in third down. You're not in third and long all the time. You are doing good on first and second down, and then you convert on third. So for me, one of the coaching philosophies that I've adopted over the years, for offense at least, is that first down, you want to get at least half the yards, First down, you want to get positive yards. Point blank period. You want to get positive yards. Second down, you want to get at least half the yards needed to convert the third down, and then third down you want to convert. So that's how my offense philosophy is. And this is one of the stats that are evidence that you're not only having good third downs, but you're having good first and second downs. And then if you look, like, just for the proof, red zone scoring attempts, number one was New England. Patriots, Tom Brady, Super Bowl. That's proof. Number one in third down conversions per game, tied was number one was Philadelphia Eagles, Super Bowl winners. So there's proof. And then the last thing I'm looking at, expecting the offense to do is to increase their average time of possession. We're not talking about overtime. So the Bears were number 28 again. Number 28 in time possession, number 28 in third downs converted. Those are direct correlations, because if you continue to keep drives alive, you continue to hold the ball. Teams that hold the ball give their teams the best chance to win. You keep your defense rested, you keep their defense tired, and you put yourself in more scoring. Again, number one in time of possession this year was Philadelphia Eagles, Super Bowl champs. New England was 13, a little lower, but still, you see that that stat is also a big indicator of how efficient your offense is. So again, overall, like most of us, we expect the offense to improve, because of the focus from the head coach and the new weapons. But I would also add that, again, for my expectation, those are the three areas that I'm keenly focused on, and I want to be in the top 20. Lastly, connected to my offensive expectation, my individual expectations for Mitchell Trubisky. Now, I would say 90% of us, our expectations for an individual will go straight to Trubisky. And I would love to hear your expectation for Trubisky. I'm not saying don't send them. I will say you will have a better chance of me reading your comment in the next episode if it's a player other than Trubisky. So only if you got like a real expectation, whatever it is, a specific stat, general, whatever. But for me, Trubisky is general. It's everything. I expect him to be better. And we're not just talking about, oh, he played 12 games last year, he'll play 16 hopefully this year. If you look at the trajectory, you do your calculations, you'll see that his number projections weren't that much better if he played 16 games. He still would have less than 3,000 yards. He still would have less than 10 touchdowns. So the projections of that and the number of games is not at all what we're talking about. And this is why I want to talk about Matt Nagy's offense. Again, it's more complex. Trust me, it's more complex than run heavy, pass heavy, spread offense. Like it's not that simple. It's more complex than that. We don't know the type of things Nagy's going to do and what type of stuff he's going to favor, but we have heard they want to do more perimeter things, whatever. If you look at Nagy's some of the things he said, if you also take into consideration some of the things they did in Kansas City, even though it was Andy Reid, what I think we're going to see is a more quarterback-friendly offense. Not this, oh man, Nagy's wide open, or it's more spread out, so that equals good. Just because you have spread offense don't mean it's good. Just because you have an open offense don't mean it's good. Just because you have a passing offense don't mean it's good. It's about making it quarterback-friendly, at least for these younger quarterbacks. And so, I don't mean spread, turn around, look at the sideline and call the play type quarterback friendly, but friendly to where we're getting the ball into playmakers' hands a lot more. And we're letting them work in space and doing more work for us rather than the quarterback. And that's very much what it was with Fox, where it's old school grind it out. And then when we pass the ball, quarterbacks got to make a lot of the decisions. And Trubisky still will make decisions, but if you look at what people do around the league and what Kansas City did, you get the balls in playmakers' hands and make them a threat. With a lot of the screen game, a lot of the jet sweep bubble type game, where you could just get it to them quick and they can threaten. And even if you don't give it to them, you could fake it off there and make them a threat, so off or defenses have to pay attention. that takes a lot of pressure off the quarterback. That allows the quarterback to really just make the simple reads when they do a lot of misdirection and play action. And that's what I think you're going to see from the Bears. One thing I know from the NFL, like studying the last few years and comparing it to college and high school, the motions are off the chart. The motions and shifts are off the chart in the NFL. They do it so much. Bears did not do that a lot. Like, compared to other teams, they did not do that a lot. And so what I think we're going to see from Nagy is a whole bunch of tendency breakers, shifting people over at the last minute, motioning people, trying to get the gain advantage. And I just think it's going to be a lot more sleight of hand. And it's going to, if Trubisky could understand his part, then he's going to be a lot better. And that's more akin to a spread offense where a lot of window dressing is happening. But as a quarterback, I just got to worry about this one thing because I know where the ball is actually going. And I'm not saying we're going to have a straight spread offense. I'm just saying it's going to be a lot more quarterback friendly. And so everything, I'm talking touchdowns, I'm talking yards, I'm talking about time of possession, all those things in the offense I expect to increase, but I expect it to increase because Trubisky is increasing. And his usage is just going to be different than it was before. And some people are like, oh man, well, you can't expect him to be 35 touchdowns, 40, whatever. It could be. Honestly, it could be if Allen Robinson was to really monster, if Trey Burton was to monster, if Tariq Cohen and Howard were to monster, and your skill players are carrying stuff, then yeah, you really got a quarterback to just kind of sit back and do what he do. And I don't know, not knocking Nick Foles and saying it's easy, but I'm saying when you got that type of skill position, the scheme is clicking, you can't have a guy that really can just focus in on this one job, get it done, and numbers can really look good. So either way though, my expectation for Trubisky is to improve in every category. And really that should go without saying, but I'm just saying that's where my mind goes. Because if it's anything like it was last year or less, that's a huge red flag. So I'm just looking for him to increase. I could probably say more specific numbers as we get closer to the start of the season. I really research it. I didn't research it this time, but I just say overall in general, I'm expecting Trubisky to be a lot more effective in every category. So there we go. Those are my expectations. As a team, I'll do the predictions right before the start of the season so I can really do what I expect the team to do record wise and all that. So that'll come later, but part 2, I need you. I need all you listeners. I need you to comment. I need you to email. I need you to tweet. Give me your expectations. You could do it like I did. You could be more detailed. You could be less detailed. Maybe you just feel like I expect the defense to be better this year. Give some reasons why, but you could tell me what your expectations is. So anyway, go to comment section and get that started. Thumbs up, subscribe, share it around, please. Let's get this convo started. We are getting closer to the season, everybody. So remember, stay up and bear down.